Hello and welcome to another episode of ProcessMiner University, a podcast series highlighting thought leadership in digital transformation for the manufacturing industry. On today's episode, host Karim Pourak, ProcessMiner CEO and co-founder, talks with Dr. Asif Rana, President, Hexagon Xalt Solutions, on upskilling manufacturing operations with digital technologies.
All right, good day, everyone. My name is Karim Pourak. I'm the CEO and co-founder of ProcessMiner. Today, I'm joined by Dr. Asif Rana. Dr. Rana is the president of Hexagon Xalt Solutions Division. And we're going to be talking about the upskilling manufacturing operations with digital technologies. So welcome. Dr. Rana, please go ahead and introduce yourself, and we can go from there.
Hello, everyone. My name is Asif Rana. I work at Hexagon as president of Hexagon's Xalt Solutions Division. Hexagon is a global technology company. We work globally and have global presence with more than 21,000 employees. Hexagon is technology leader in reality capture technologies and also other sensor and software solutions, especially when it comes to autonomous solutions. Speaking a bit about Xalt, Xalt is an advanced technology platform that we use to create smart solutions for manufacturing and construction verticals, but it's also applicable to all other industries and verticals that we can think of where there is a need to create digital solutions. So pleased to be here again and look forward to a good discussion.
Let's jump into it, Dr. Rana. Recently, Deloitte, along with the Manufacturing Institute, did a study on the skilled labor shortage, skilled labor gap in the United States. And they found out that by the year 2030, we are going to have about 2.1 million unfilled jobs in the manufacturing sector. And the cost impact of this, the economy, by 2030, only that 1 year is could be over $1 trillion. Obviously, this is a very evident problem that manufacturing sector is dealing with, and companies are trying different methods to mitigate this risk and to plan for it. Commonly, these companies are using by upskilling their employees with advanced technologies, bring in robotics, AI-driven autonomous controls, and so forth. But of course, the upskilling the existing employees, as well as the new employees that coming in, are an essential part of this strategy. So how do you, what's your take on the overall current state of the skilled labor shortage, especially during what we went to during the pandemic, which really truly disrupted also the supply chain? So how do you see that currently, and how do you see the upskilling of these employees would allow these companies to mitigate this risk?
Yeah, no, absolutely, you're right on this. And we see this trend also in the industry. The employee shortage, especially the skilled employee shortage, is becoming really of concern already now, as you mentioned, during the COVID time, also post-COVID. And this is not only because the skills are in shortage there. This is also because people really would like to pursue their interests in a much more liberal and democratic way now. So to expect that there are well-defined paths or routes that people would then learn and then stay with them is no more the case. So we have to be open and embrace this change and how society is moving. And the other thing is also there are a lot of technologies that are in use now, and to expect that one person can then replace fully the other person who has been working on that technology is also kind of not expected. I look at actually at the bigger picture in at least two different ways. There is one which is the upskilling of operations themselves. So the operations and how the whole kind of OT technology that's there, how to improve, kind of upskill it and bring it up to the standard is also one major opportunity. And of course, the other thing is to enable the workforce to really harness the power of digital operations. And we believe And we, we believe that the upskilling is not only to allow, take care of that gap that you mentioned. It is also actually to enhance the productivity, the efficiency of the full operation, and also of the skilled labor.
I see. So based on what you just said, how do we bring our operations to the next level by upskilling our workforce then?
Yeah, very good question. I think this is really the most important piece of the journey. I would see from my angle, but I'm of course open also to hear your views or of our audience. We see that one of the key driving factor here is to understand what is going to be our digital transformation strategy for an enterprise. And that really starts with defining the business objectives in the midterm and long term. And from there, you need to drive a digital transformation plan. So we have to start there. And then we need to, of course, go to the next step of providing all the tools and all the applications needed for the workforce to capture the data that's coming from operations in real time, from manufacturing operations in our case, and really enable them to use analytics at the end. There is a lot of value in that data that's coming along. And if we can use analytics on that, can get to the insights that are hidden in that data, use AI, the whole machine learning story there. If we can implement that, look for the operational patterns that are hidden in there, identify areas of improvement. I think that's where you need to start there.
I see. So how does these companies, medium size, large size, depend? And actually, that would be my other question: who really qualifies for this? But my next question is: how would a company, an organization that is currently dealing with this challenge or is trying to plan for the future should start? What would be the starting point, and what are the areas? What are the key areas that they have to pay attention to and plan for?
Yeah, I mean, really, it has to start with a broader digitalization strategy, and then immediately once you have that, you have to focus on rather narrow initial implementation plan where you would like to enter into operations, for example. There are many areas. One could be, for example, looking at how we can decrease waste in a production environment. Or in other cases, there are workflows that are touching, for example, production, quality, and also at the end, delivery, or working with also suppliers on one end and also with the customers, how we can create those digital workflows and improve at the same time process efficiency. So you can really choose wherever you see the need for improvement. In many cases, it could be process, where you see that you can really improve the efficiency, so you can better focus on the process. On other sides, you can have, for example, workflow itself between different areas of the operations. You can also then focus on the touch points between different areas, functional areas in a manufacturing environment, and then focus on digitalizing the workflow between them. So it's really open in my view. It depends a little bit on what kind of business we are doing. But once you have identified it, my advice there would be to not let the focus go too broad. Really, we need to keep laser focused on that initially defined area till a certain ROI is achieved. That is what will drive the further digitalization and upskilling of the employees.
All right, that's a great point. So this leads me to the next part of our conversation in terms of how to plan for sort of adopting these digital strategy that would address a lot of different sort of risks that companies are going to be facing due to the skilled labor shortage, and of course addressing some of that with upskilling their employees, their workforce, by bringing a digital variety of digital capabilities to their organizations. But what are the risks that these companies are going to face doing this type of planning and going toward that digitization of their organization?
Yeah, a great question. So on one side, of course, the main risk is if you don't implement digitalization or upskilling of your labor or employee workforce, there's the main risk of losing the opportunity and then really kind of becoming obsolete from the sheer force of disruption. But once you have decided that it's time to do this, and then you would like to implement it, then some of the pitfall that I see that we can avoid is it's very important to keep the business case before technology. We need to know what ROI, what outcomes are we expecting once we implement a certain digital process for upskilling the labor or the operations for both. And then really we should let business drive it. There's a lot of technology available, very good technology, but at the end we need to see what's the ROI and really have to map the business processes before we begin. The other thing that we have seen also that's quite helpful in this journey is to define the initial project quite in a narrow, rather narrow and focused way. Instead of like really kind of, let's start the digitalization of the whole enterprise or whole empire, it's much more beneficial and also more credible and tangible at the same time if we can define kind of initial project in a rather kind of constrained way, but then it also helps to establish ROI quite quickly. And one very important thing, which is not maybe related to technology or business per se directly, is the cultural element. It's very important, and I would say almost you cannot do without it, is to have an understanding of the cultural intricacies involved in driving a digitalization strategy through an organization. For example, not having all stakeholders on board can really disturb it or slow it down. There are also organizational silos. There are also sometimes organizational way of doing things. Simply, it's just human. People do things. So to disregard them and not think about them and only thinking about from pure business or pure technology is not going to help us. So really, there are all these things that we have to keep in mind.
Very well. So in the beginning, you actually touched on embracing the digital technology to be able to solve these problems, and then you touched on the cultural aspects and challenges that you brought up, which we see this very clearly with some of our clients from different level of the organizations, from operational and at the plant level all the way to the C-suite. And one of the challenges we see that these organizations have is that there are multiple groups, or let's call them silos, right, that trying to deliver digital strategy sort of a goals, and they're actually not sort of rowing in one direction. They're all pulling to different directions, right? And some of the activities, such as upskilling your workforce, such as some of the analytic projects, they get lost within these sort of different groups of that handling this type of projects that are trying to go toward a common digital strategy execution. How do you see this as a problem? Is it the leadership problem in a lot of these organizations? Is this a lack of planning? Is it a lack of partners? How do you see that issue being addressed and or exists actually?
It is absolutely a great discussion point. And there is a lot of learning that we have done, but I'm sure other organizations are also going through the same journeys. What I feel from my experience here is that you would certainly need some kind of cross-functional roles to drive these enterprise digital strategies. You can call them chief data officer or chief digital officer, or there are other names there, but this is important. And it's really important because enterprise is quite a broad subject. and everyone has their own kind of functional responsibilities. And we should also keep in mind that an organization is not being born on the day that we start digitalization. It's been functioning for many years, and in many cases, most of the cases, quite successfully. So you need really those functions and those kind of people who can go horizontally across all these different functions and can talk to these different stakeholders there. The data in many cases is siloed also, not only the functions, in different parts of the organization, and it would be hard to drive these kind of things without having some kind of those central responsibilities there. At the same time, I would also mention a little bit of a caution here, that it shouldn't drive to more authoritative approach in driving the digital strategy. These functions should be implemented to have one source of truth actually across all these functions at a top level, and they should help establish these implementation mechanisms which should involve all the right stakeholders from the whole organization.
I see. That's great. So essentially, there are some prerequisites that it has to be met before even getting into doing this type of planning and making sure that everyone is on the same page and they have a common sort of plan in place and the right leadership, because it's a key component of planning and executing any of these digital strategies. How does this sort of operational efficiency, you think, being impacted by this type of digital technology adoption to any organization, right? Including training your existing workforce, which we get to the next question to that. But what is the operational efficiency impact, you think, by adopting this type of strategy?
Yeah. So we have seen in many of the implementations across the board efficiency increase of 20% or more. It's really a major change in the efficiency. It could be in many cases the waste reduction. It could also be the downtime reduction of production lines. It can also be the increased efficiency or productivity of the existing workforce. And in some cases, for example, for waste reduction, it can even go beyond 50% of the waste reduction. In one of our deployments, we have also seen significant reduction in the inventory. The inventory has then gone from, for example, 70% to 20%. So those kind of variables we have seen significantly impacted by the operational digitalization and Industry 4.0 implementations.
I see. Training are the organization's skill, existing workforce, right? The term used for it is upskilling them. Obviously requires a certain planning as well. Companies tend to do the training in-house. Some companies tend to do it, outsource it, and bring other companies in, other groups in, employ new technologies in, smart glasses, smart devices, doing a variety of different advanced tools, bringing different technologies in terms of analytics, in terms of autonomous control systems, robotics, and they're being bombarded by these different offerings from everywhere. They have some of these organizations that we work with, they have sort of a fatigue in terms of what to choose and what route to go, right? What in your opinion, what is the sort of a key components of choosing the right method and technology on training this existing workforce, as well as filling the gap of the workforce sort of a shortage within these organizations?
Yeah, I believe there is no one answer to this question. We really have to respect and give credit to the existing workforce, And, going only the other way, like, only bringing new people and bringing, them with the right skill set, I don't think that's the way to go. At the same time, it's also imperative for us to learn about new technologies and bring, fresh perspective. So I think you have to find mechanism and ways to, of course, enhance the skills of the existing workforce, but at the same time also induce new talent and also kind of new views into this. And there is one more thing that I would like to mention here. We should not forget about a great value contribution that can come from finding the right partners in this journey. The technologies have advanced, significantly in recent times, and there is, as you mentioned already, there is a palette of really everything from every angle to choose from. So I believe, finding one or more good and culturally fitting partners is almost always a great idea. So, upskilling the existing employees and workforce, also bringing, of course, new perspectives from the market, but also working closely with right partners. It can absolutely, in our views, accelerate the journey toward the enterprise digital transformation, because you really get also a mix of both the in-house development and also really collaboration from those technology and best practices when it comes to finding the right partners.
All right, great point. So at the end, I want to just actually recognize the existing workforce in the manufacturing that is essentially running our overall manufacturing industry and contributing a lot to our lives, right? There is an immense amount of knowledge is held by the folks that have been working in these manufacturing plants, and they're essentially a very intricate part of our future. Even though every technology we create today, we call them advanced technology, they were not going to be able to be effective and useful if it's not for the knowledge of these experts that work in these manufacturing environments for many years. So obviously, we are trying to upscale our workforce, but we have to, at the same time, in my opinion, learn from our existing workforce. Try to absorb as much knowledge as we can that it's priceless, essentially, toward what we are going to be building for the future. So I think companies have to also have a plan and a strategy, not to just train them, but be trained by their own existing workforce that have a tremendous amount of expertise and knowledge in their facilities and plants. How do you see that?
I absolutely second that. I think this is very important, and it's really incumbent upon us to recognize this contribution by the existing workforce and also make sure we have procedures and mechanisms in place to capture this knowledge, and not only to drive the business forward, but also in the spirit of gathering this really important assembly of all those operational experiences and knowledge that has been gathered over last 20, 30 years, which was kind of the I would say the third industrial revolution, and then hopefully we can also use some of it in the next stage using artificial intelligence and also machine learning techniques. So it's really a win-win for everybody.
Fantastic. Dr. Rana, it was great speaking with you today. This was a great conversation, and would love to continue to talk to you about different subjects regarding Industry 4.0, challenges in manufacturing, on adopting new technologies, and other surrounding subjects.
Absolutely. It was my pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
We hope you enjoyed this episode of ProcessMiner University, where we discussed upskilling manufacturing operations with digital technologies. Thank you to Dr. Asif Rana from Hexagon Xalt Solutions for joining us today, and stay tuned for another episode of ProcessMiner University.